Hi guys, today's video is one that I'm super excited for because we're going to be reviewing a brand that I've been wanting to try for the longest time, and I really don't, I know I say this all the time with brands that I don't know why I haven't tried this brand sooner, because I feel like, I'll be honest, the color story of this palette isn't even really my favorite that the brand has ever come out with, but I was like, listen, I can't wait any longer, like I need to try this brand, and we're talking about Ensley Reign Cosmetics. And I think one of the reasons why I haven't jumped on this before is because their palettes are quite expensive. So I've kind of just like waited for the perfect color story, and maybe I realized that maybe the perfect color story is just like so far away that I don't want to wait that long. So I'm just gonna like bite the bullet for you guys and give you a review of this palette. So this is the Harvest Moon palette, and another thing that I am very excited about is that this video is a collaboration with my friend Caitlin from Caitlin House Makeup. She will also have a 3-look and review video up on this palette when I'm posting this, so go ahead and check out her video after. She's amazing. I mean, her content, I feel like I think I found her from her reviewing one of my collab palettes, and I've just watched every video from her ever since. She does a lot of ranking videos, she does a lot of like multiple look review videos, she reviews a lot of indie brands, and I think you guys are going to absolutely love her if you haven't checked her out already. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to show you the looks that I've done already with this palette. I've already filmed 2. We're gonna do 1 look on camera together. I'll give you some thoughts, I guess, while I do the look. Because I definitely have thoughts. I think the palette is absolutely stunning, but like I said in the beginning, I feel like this color story maybe isn't my perfect color story, because I definitely prefer a lot of lighter shimmers, and most of these are black-based shimmers, which I've said many times just isn't my favorite. So I'm not gonna like fault the palette for not being, you know, my preferences, because to be fair, I did buy this palette, so kind of my own fault there. But we're gonna make it work, and I'm gonna try to only use this palette, not bring in anything else. Just gonna prime with my Natasha Denona eyeshadow base. The one thing I do want to mention with this palette is that there are really not any light mattes in this. So if you're someone who likes having transition shades, or just, you know, find it hard to work with dark mattes in general, feel free to pull in something else if you're using a palette like this. Like, don't feel like you only have to use this palette to make it work, because I think sometimes people are maybe too judgmental with palettes, myself included, but only because I'm reviewing it as a standalone palette on YouTube. But I find myself with palettes that maybe aren't the best standalone palettes, when I am not filming, I can use whatever I want. I definitely use those palettes more if I can use them together with something else. So I just want to like put it out there. If you like this palette but you feel like it's missing something, don't be afraid to mix and match palettes, because it's so fun and it just gives you so much more flexibility to do what it is that you want to do. So like I said already though, I am going to use this on its own. In my first look, I did pull in like a very light transition shade just to use with this green, because I felt like it was very dark, but I'm not going to do this with today's look, because I think I just want to use, maybe I want to use these two. I definitely want to use this shade. I haven't used that before. I could also go like this route with like the orange and the purple. That could be kind of fun. Let's see, I'm trying to see what I haven't used, and I think the only shades I haven't used are these 3. So I've used these 3 matte, me pointing at like 5. So I gotta kind of decide which direction I want to go in. So which shimmer do I want to use? I want to use this one. Haven't used it. Pretty sure I used this one. I really haven't touched too much of the top row except for this shade, because they are very dark shimmers. So I've used like the tiniest bit of them. So I really want this to be the star of the show, because it's such a pretty shimmer. So maybe we'll go in this direction and start with the sort of burnt orange as a transition shade and see how that looks, if it's going to be light enough to be a transition shade, which I think it will. The one thing I will say so far about these mattes is that I feel like they are very good quality. Like, look at that. Like, that's really nice pigment. They're very soft. They do have quite a bit of kick up in the pan, so like be a little bit careful if you're someone who maybe get a little bit of fallout if you don't tap off your brush. Just be careful, because they are kind of powdery, but they're also very smooth, very silky, very soft to the touch. And I think that they have a really nice matte formula that I would honestly like to have in more colors as well. Like, that was so easy. Like, I basically didn't even really have to blend that. Like, that just went on beautifully. I do think this shade is definitely light enough to be a transition shade, at least for me. Like, I don't need anything lighter than this, but if you do, again, don't be afraid to like pull in some light transition shade if you feel like that's going to make it easier to work with. And I also think for me, like this palette is gonna be the perfect sort of palette to do more graphic looks with, because I feel like for graphic looks, I don't really need transition shades, and I can just use one shade to do one of my kind of big wings for hooded eyes that you've seen me do very many times. And I think this will be the perfect palette for that, because I wouldn't need something that's lighter if I just wanted to have like a big graphic wing or something like that. But I actually haven't done any graphic looks in this video, which is shocking, honestly. I don't know why, but it just didn't happen. So we're just going to use the shade in, you know, normal ways. That is the basic transition shade, deepening shade, yada yada, y'all know how it goes. But I feel like it's just a good way to test out a new formula, because I do think that this is how most people use eyeshadows and build an eyeshadow look. So I want to be able to test it out in this way and just like let you know how the palette performed. But like that was so easy. Like this looks great. I'm just doing what I always do, just kind of following my lower lash line up and connecting it and winging it out a little bit and just sort of completing the shape on the outer corner. And we're going to use a shade to deepen this up, and we're going to do probably 2 or 3 shimmers on the lid just to try out as many shades as possible. But I'm having a great time with these mattes. I think they're performing so well. They're really, really, really easy to work with, and the shimmers in this palette are so beautiful too. I do definitely have some thoughts though, but I feel like it's just like a me thing. So I'll tell you those kind of towards the end of the video. I just want to kind of show you a look first before we get into all of my thoughts. I'm gonna go in with some of my, I'm not gonna use my glitter primer yet. Annette, we're not done. We're not done. We still need to deepen this up. My brain is all over the place today. I'm sorry. I'm switching to my BK Beauty brush. This is the A504. It's my favorite little brush. I actually like this more than my Rephr 13, which I said it. I'm sorry I said it. I feel bad, but I really do. I'm gonna take the shade called Spooky Season, which is this one right here, and I'm going to use that to deepen up this look, and we'll see if I need to go in with this one. I might try it just to like see how it performs, but I'm going to start with this one. And I'm just going to pack it first on the outer corner of my eye like I always do, and just blend it into the crease shade. We'll see how this ends up performing. I'm really curious what kind of looks Caitlin's going to do, because I always end up loving her looks. Like I feel like she does a very good variety of looks, which I prefer when people do, you know, sometimes really simple looks, sometimes more complicated looks. She likes to experiment, which I feel like I do too. I don't always do it, but I like the fact that I never know what I'm gonna get with her videos and her looks, and that's what makes me, you know, go back to watching people who do tutorials and stuff, because I don't always want to see the same look over and over, if that makes sense. And feel free to let me know if you feel like my looks are sometimes too repetitive, because, you know, we all get in makeup ruts sometimes, and we just end up doing what we know and what we like and what works for us. And maybe sometimes it can get a little boring. And as a YouTuber, that's the last thing you want to do, is boring, because then people leave. Which honestly, I'm probably a kind of boring person anyway, but I'm glad that you guys are sticking around. I'm glad I'm able to like add something to your life. I don't know, but thank you for being here is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, this is looking really, really nice. I don't think I want to take this under my eye. I do also think I want this to be a little bit darker. And I actually think that this shade that I just used could also be used alone as a transition shade, and I don't think it's too dark for that. So I'm going to take a little bit of this shade here, which is called Phantom. And this palette is magnetic, just something I wanted to mention in case you're someone who likes to switch your shadows around, or you know, you have a lot of single shadows, you like to build your own palettes, you can, you know, take these out of the packaging and use them in that way as well. That is a really, really nice shade. Like, I love the formula of these mattes so much more than I thought I would. Like, I really thought that this would be the kind of brand where, like, especially because they have so many shimmers in their palettes, I really thought it would be like a, oh, I love this brand for the shimmers, just like I like Blend Bunny for their mattes, and I thought this would be kind of the opposite. But honestly, I think I like the mattes in this palette more than the shimmers, which is crazy. I love the shimmers too, but the mattes are so easy to work with. They honestly remind me a little bit of Blend Bunny mattes. Like, I wish that there were more mattes in these palettes, because I would absolutely love that. And I think including more mattes would also make the palettes more affordable. So maybe just something for the brand to keep in mind, because they have such a good matte formula that I think just adding in a couple more mattes and a little less shimmers would not only make the palette more versatile and more user-friendly for more people, but it would also probably pull the cost down a little bit, which would be good for everyone. Like, look how good that looks. That is so pretty. Like, that's performing amazingly. Like, I can't. Like, this is so easy. And I love that for me. Like, I love when things are just easy and do what I want them to do. So now we're gonna do some glitter primer. And I'm probably gonna do, I think, 2 shimmers on the lid, maybe 3. I'm trying to not put on too much of this glitter primer because I have had some issues with these creasing, and I know sometimes if I put on too much glitter primer, some shimmers can tend to do that, but let's see. So I think I want to use this one and maybe one of these kind of darker shimmers just to help with the blend a little bit. So I'm gonna just start with this one because that's the one I'm the most excited about, and I just want to see how it looks, but I'm like, I'm drooling at just looking at it on the brush because it looks so pretty. So we're basically just gonna put that all over the lid and then maybe use one shade in the front portion and one just on the very outer corner to help with the blend, like I said. This is such a pretty shade. Like, I love red eyeshadow. I know Caitlin's not the biggest fan, but I really like it. I think it looks so good. Like, depending on what it's paired with, and yes, this is more of an orange, but I feel like on the eyes is looking quite red, and I'm like not mad at it. I think that looks so cool. Me saying I would leave some room on the outer corner of my eye. Who am I kidding? Like, why would I do that? So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take, I feel like I used this shade yesterday, so maybe I'll take a little bit of this one. Is that gonna be dark enough? Is that what I want to use? I think I want to use that. It might be what I used in my last look too. I literally can't remember. This is a shade called Ghost Moon, and we're just gonna do the tiniest amount of that just to blend the dark matte into the shimmers. Like, yeah, that was a good decision. That looks great. And I'm pretty sure I've used this next shade in every look, but it's because it is the only light shade in this palette. So I'm gonna use this in the front portion as well as probably wrap it around sort of as my inner corner shade as well. This is the shade called Foliage, and it's such a pretty color, but I do wish that there were maybe like one more option to be used in this way, maybe like a lighter pink or something like that, because it is a little bit limiting if I am only going to use this palette. Of course, I can pull in other things, which I will definitely do when I use this, like not for review, because I feel like I would get more use out of it this way. But I just want to show you that you can do looks with this on its own as well. So we have a nice fiery eye look going on. I'm quickly gonna finish off, just do some liner and mascara. So this is the final look done. I did put on some lashes. I actually don't remember which ones these are. They're not my favorites because I struggle to put them on properly and have them look even. I feel like I got a good application today though, even though I did have to redo this eye because it just was not looking good. They're definitely from Unicorn Cosmetics. They're one of the larger styles that I have from them, so that's probably why I struggle a bit. But overall, I love this look. I think it turned out so good. I love the fieriness of it. I love the reds. I think they're so fun, and I'm gonna tell you my thoughts on this while I show you the other 2 looks that I have done with this palette so far. And I feel like you already know kind of what I'm gonna say, but I think that the mattes in here are stunning. I do wish that there were some lighter mattes. I do also get that with the theme of the palette, this is the color story that they were going for, so like I can't really blame them for going with the vision that they had, because this is obviously what they wanted this palette to be. But from a user standpoint and just like a user experience, I do think it would make it a little bit easier if there were just some more mattes. I think more mattes is what I want more than them changing the mattes that are already in here. Just like a couple more mattes, maybe a little less shimmers. The shimmers are beautiful. When I swatched them today before I sat down to film this, because I hadn't swatched them before, I was blown away because they are so smooth. There are a couple of different shimmer formulas in this palette. For the most part, most of them are very smooth. They pick up really nicely on a brush. There are also some more chunky formulas, which is very, very common these days in indie palettes. And I think it's fun to have different formulas in palettes. It really just depends on what it is that you're looking for and what kind of formulas that you get along with. Now, speaking of getting along with shimmers, I feel like the shimmers in this palette maybe just aren't perfect for me. And I did touch on this earlier. I think the shimmers are just very dark, and I find that for myself, shimmers that have a black base, which is most of the shimmers in this palette, if I'm being honest, they just tend to crease on me. And it's not the fault of the shimmer, it's just like how those kind of shimmers are made. It's not the brand's fault. Like, this is across the board for me with every single brand that I've ever tried. Any black based shimmers, especially multichromes and shifted shades, they will crease on me. It's just like a fact. It just happens. I don't know why, but that's just like the experience I have with black-based shimmers and multichromes. So with that being said, I do feel like a lot of these are probably not going to be shimmers that I reach for a lot, just because they do crease quite a bit on me. And the ones that I wore in my second look, they looked pretty bad, honestly. After, I want to say 6 to 8 hours, I had like a huge line in the middle of my lids, and even like tapping it over, it didn't quite like cover it up because there weren't enough shadow left on my eyes to be able to do that. So they didn't wear the absolute best on me, but I definitely want to keep buying from this brand, especially if they come out with a palette that's more of a lighter color story, because I really like the mattes. I wish that they would expand on their mattes and just have more mattes in their palettes. Would also make the palettes cheaper. And yeah, I'm excited to follow the brand and see what else they end up doing, because I think they really have something going for them. And I think the price point is probably the one thing that keeps a lot of people from buying from this brand. So maybe if they could make some smaller palettes, little less shimmer, more mattes. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there, just my thoughts and ideas for whatever it's worth. But yeah, I still think that the looks that I did with this palette are beautiful. It's just the wear time wasn't the absolute best for me, but I still think the formula is really good. And it's like I said, it's not the brand's fault that the shimmers crease on me because they're black based, and it just happens across the board. Like even my Cleona black based shimmers, which Cleona had my favorite shimmer or multichrome formula, they also crease on me. So it's just like a thing that happens on my eyelid that I can't control, and I'm sure it happens to a lot of you as well. So I guess those are going to be my thoughts. Don't forget to check out Caitlin's video. I'm sure her looks are going to be way more exciting than mine, but I can't wait to see them. Thank you for doing this collab with me. Love you so much. I think you're amazing. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see some more indie makeup reviews, I do have a playlist. I'll put that right there. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.